and welcome to Taya Mini Reads, Reviews, Discusses, Monologues about everything and anything, and that's on period. Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. So, this is going to be my typical wrap up for February of 2026, but a couple of things that I wanted to kind of, I guess, highlight. So this will technically be 1 year since I started this channel. Yay! And it's been great. It's been rewarding. I feel very fulfilled putting out these videos. So thank you to everyone who watches, likes, comments, shares the videos, my YouTube videos and everything. I mean, it's been amazing. Nothing short of amazing. So this is honestly it just happened, but I read a huge amount of books this month. Don't ask me how, but I read I read 8 books, which is so unlike me. I usually would read 5. I kind of average 4 to 5 books. So February was a bit interesting because I kind of read a lot of books. But there's a reason, and you will see how I was able to read this many books, or this amount of books. Anyways, I'm talking too much. Let's get into the books that I finished in February of 2026. So, the first book, and I'm not going in any specific order. Well, doesn't really matter actually. So I did continue on Assassin's Quest, which is book 3 in the Farseer trilogy, because I had finished the last 2 books in January, and it wasn't a bad book per se. I just felt like it was a vicious circle of Fitz running from someone, and then being ill, or either Night Eyes is sick. I mean, it just felt like a lot of running. I don't necessarily like traveling stories. It's not my fave at all. Like, that's not my favorite kind of story, is when someone is moving from post to post and all of that. So I think that kind of took away from the book. It was a very lengthy book, too long. I felt like it could have been cut like half and we would still get the idea. But I am definitely, I love the ending. I'm definitely ready to move on to the next set of trilogies in the series. So I might take some time on that. I don't know, because these books kind of take it, you invest a lot when you read them, and if you've read it, you probably know, because the detail is there's so much detail, and I don't necessarily want to miss the detail. So I kind of take my time when I read. Whenever I read these types of books. So I will get started on the next set of trilogies. I just don't know when. It might be right after, who knows? But I do have a backlog of other books that I've been wanting to read. So that's at least done with the first Farseer trilogy. If I have time, I might do a standalone on that series, but I fear that I might want to do it for the whole books when I'm done. So we'll see. After that, I continued on with my Dungeon Crawler car series, and I finished. I'm looking at the name because it's long. The Gate of the Pharaoh Gods by Matt Dinniman, and this is book 4 of the DCC series. Now, when I first started this book came right after the Iron Tangle, and I had issues with the Iron Tangle mostly because I just couldn't really understand the layout, and I felt like it was just so confusing unnecessarily. So when I started this one, we were coming off the Iron Tangle. The Gate of Pharaoh Gods was a whole different setup, and again, it's like a what do you call it? Not Hunger Games. The Korean show, oh my god, it was, if I remember. Anyways, it's kind of like that, where there's 4 quadrants: land, sea, ocean. I just said ocean. Land, sea, air, and underground, like maybe subterranean level. But there's these 4 quadrants, and they split all the people in the dungeon into these 4 teams, and each team or quadrant has to accomplish or finish the game. Like basically they're storming a castle, and then they have one more level they have to do before their air bubble is popped, because they were in this like bubble thing, and it goes in stages. So they have to, all the 4 teams have to defeat their castle or win their castle, and then do one more, and then they're done. So it was very, I'm not, again, one thing about these books, don't ask me for any mechanics or any specific things, because I can't even really explain it myself. But basically, that's what I just said, right? So this one is more teamwork, whereas in the other levels, everyone's just kind of going it at it. But this one, you have to work in teams, because you're put in each quadrant with people you don't know, and then you're forced to work together, because this is not something that a one person could accomplish by themselves. So it was really, it was an interesting twist, seeing how Carl then met other people in the dungeon, and they had to kind of work together, which I think they did really well. A lot of things happen in this book, like a lot of things, because we got introduced to feral gods, and also there was a lot of subplots that are going on that you can see how Matt is setting up for the other books, what's going to happen, because I don't want to say spoilers, but damn it, Carl. He did something that actually blew my mind. This was closer to the end of the book. And the thing with Carl is he seems like, oh my God, I don't have any other choice. I have to absolutely do this. But do you, Carl? Do you really? Do you really, really? But I really enjoyed The Gate of the Pharaoh Gods. And this was the one book that I think after I finished it, I was like, heck yeah. We're full steam ahead. Like, I want to know exactly what's going on. The conspiracies were conspiracying everything was just really, really, really good. Like, it was so good. And the ending, they popped their air bubble, and there was a lot of things that went on. I just want to know, like, who is messing with Carl and who's not, like, I don't know, interested in him to move ahead in the dungeons. But yeah, so that was The Gate of the Pharaoh Gods. I literally jumped right into book 5, which is The Butchers. Let me see if I have the name correctly. Bear with me. Book 5 is The Butcher's Masquerade. So I'm working on it. I got distracted by the next couple of books I'm about to talk about. So yeah. Okay, so now, after finishing those 2 books earlier, I then started reading. Okay, this one is a bit of a surprise to me. Well, actually, it's not. I knew I was going to read the books, but I have this thing where if I have watched a show before I read a book, it's typically hard for me to go back and read the book, because I'm like, why do I want to read the book? Like, I feel like I already know everything just from watching the show, which is a misnomer, right? Because the shows or movies, they will not have as much detail as, contained in the books. So this was one that I just wasn't sure if I would ever get to it. But then I was like, you know what? I put out for so long, I might as well just pick it up. And so I started reading Bridgerton. I did, because I watched the first part of season 4, and I couldn't abide. I just couldn't stand the suspense. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a crazy thing and read book 1, because I didn't want to skip and just get to Benedict and Sophie's story. I was like, I would just read book 1 and see how it goes. Well, it did go really well. I read 6 books. I read all 6 books for all the 6 siblings except Hyacinth and Gregory. For those ones, I'm going to not read them now, because they're a bit younger and I don't feel like I've connected to them a lot in the show. And because I'm reading the books now that the show is out, it just kind of feels, I don't know, weird to see, because I see them as kids. I don't know if that makes sense. So, and if you read Bridgerton, you know that the the books are very, very explicit. So without talking too much, let's get into it. So the first one was, I can't remember them all. I'm just gonna say them. I'll have it on the screen as well. But the first book was The Duke and I, which is Daphne and Simon's story. Then I read The Viscount Who Loved Me, which is Anthony and Kate's story. Then I read An Offer from a Gentleman, which is Benedict and Sophie's story. Then I went on to read Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, which is Colin and Penelope's story. I then jumped to Sir Phillip with Love, which is Sir Philip Crane and Eloise Bridgerton's story. And the last one that I read was Francesca and John. Let's just say Francesca's story. And that was When He Was Wicked. So let's start with the first one. And I think, I enjoyed the books, to be quite honest. I'm not someone that, I do like romance. I didn't really think I cared about Regency romance, but watching Bridgerton, I was like, oh, this is nice. It's fun. I like it. And so I went into the books with expectation because I've watched the show. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. But I think that reading the book actually enhanced or enriched the story for me, because there were so many things happening in the book that it just helped amplify the story, if that makes sense. And I think, I will be very honest, I really enjoyed the books and I enjoyed the show. So I can't really say, but I think it varies on book to book. So let's do it that way. So the first book, the Duke and I, was really good. Equating it with the show, I'll give it, 10 over 10. I don't really think anything could have been done, better or worse. I definitely felt like they stuck straight to the story. So it was really good. Book 2, which is Anthony and Kate, I prefer the book versus the show. I'm just going to leave it at that. And by the way, I'm going to do a more spoilery video where I kind of go into details. So this is just going to be on surface level. I'm not going to go into spoilers. I mean, everyone has read Bridgerton, but the books are a bit different. Yeah, I have to say the books are a bit different. Some things, the way they rearranged the books, they still kept through to like the main elements. Like in The Duke and I, Simon, he really kind of like, I would say, like, lied to Daphne. And, so the main elements were there. It's just that a couple of things were different. So back to book 2. Book 2, I prefer the book version versus the story version, because the way things happen in the books made more sense. And I did not really like how they did it in the show. And that was actually my least favorite season. So it makes sense. Book 3, which is, so this is a flip, because in the books, we get Benedict and Sophie's story first. But in the show, we get Colin and Penelope first. So I'm just going to go by order of the books because I'm talking about the books. So we get Benedict and Sophie, which I think Benedict and Sophie's story was it was good. It was just not my top read, but it was close. I really enjoyed it. I liked it. It was really good. I enjoyed it. And a couple of things have happened in the book that's a bit different from the show. I'll talk about that in my spoiler video, so watch out for that. So then we go to Colin and Penelope's story, which kind of was keeping close to the book. I wouldn't give it a 10 over 10. This was the story I loved the least. And I think it has to do with the show, because the show Colin is so different from the book Colin. Book Colin has just this like suave, he's like really reserved, but he's very observant. He's very smart, and he's comes off as broody, but he's like, he got eyes on you, right? Show Colin, though, I'm not saying he's not all that, but he doesn't bring the presence like book Colin did. I don't know. Let me know if I'm going crazy, but that's kind of like how I see it. Anyways, after that, we get Eloise's story, and it was not bad. it was okay. It wasn't my favorite story, I think, at the end of the day. And obviously we don't have Eloise's stories yet. That would be season 5, obviously. So I can't really compare it to the show. But I would say that it wasn't bad. It was a bit different because mostly I think because it happened outside of London. So I would be interested to see how they're gonna stage this story and also who they're gonna play to cast Sir Phillip, which we might get once the second part of Bridgerton comes out in February. So who knows? But I liked the story, and I think the way it happened was good. It's just, it wasn't my favorite. And then we have When He Was Wicked, which is Francesca's story with her in the show. As of right now, she's married to John. So this one, I would say that I really, really, really like the book. I don't really like the way they set up this book in the show. And not for the obvious reasons, right? Like they changed the gender of Michael, which if you've read the book, you know who Michael is. Well, if you watch the show, you know that John has a cousin called Michaela, whereas in the book, he had a cousin called Michael. Now, I'm not really opposed to them switching it and trying to do inclusion and representation. That's all good because honestly, if you even read the books, none of the characters were people of color. Like not of color or ethnicity other than white. If I say so myself. I don't think the author, when she was writing these books, she didn't put anything diversity in the books, which again, it's not a bad thing. But I'm saying I like the way Shonda Rhimes brought everything to life in the show. Not a bad addition. So it makes sense that she would want to put, some other form of inclusion. But I was like, but why Francesca's and Michael's story? Because that one was like, that's my favorite story out of everything. Like that's like, if I were to rank the books in order of how much I enjoy them, it would be Francesca's story would be number 1, The Duke and I number 2. I would say to Sir Philip Crane, number 3, Anthony's story, and then Colin or Pauline's story. So the difference between the book and the show for Francesca's story is it's not bad. I just don't know how they're gonna accomplish everything and still stick true to her story, because her story is really hinged on a couple of things. And like I, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. If anyone has any ideas, let me know. I mean, we'll get it next year, but I'm just like, I wish they stayed true to her story. Not because of anything. I just felt like her story was so important and it was a bit different from the other siblings, but them changing such a huge part of it, I just don't see how that's still going to keep in with her storyline, especially for the times that they were in, where we know that, certain things were not done at that time. So, but yeah, that's all, the books I read, 8 of them. Like I said, I will not probably read Hyacinth and Gregory's story until later because those seasons are still a ways. I don't really feel particularly connected to them as characters in the show, but I did enjoy, reading the books and seeing snippets of them here and there. But yeah, those were all the books that I read in February 2026. Let me know what books you read, and if you read Bridgerton, are you excited for part 2, which drops sometime in February? I filmed this maybe a day before the show dropped, so I honestly, I also don't know, but I read these books because I just couldn't wait and I wanted to know much about Benedict and Sophie's story. One thing I will say is, even knowing how their story ends, because the show is set up in such a different way, I honestly don't know what direction they're going to go. I know they will still stick to the general premise of the story, but it's not spoiling the enjoyment, if that makes sense. So if you ever wondered, like, oh, should I still read the books even though I've read the show, I would encourage you to, because it really enriched my knowledge, and now I'm going to go back and rewatch the show. That's just how good it was. But thank you so much for watching and listening to me yap. Let me know the books that you caught up with in February, and if you've read Bridgerton or if you watched the show, let me know which ones were your favorite stories. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.